Hi everyone, I'm Joanna May Booty. I'm pretty good. How are you doing, Spence?
Great. It's unseasonably cold in June, but we'll take the doing the same old grind, and we're here doing the weed out on the Monday afternoon, and we're happy to have a public figure and advocate, Draven Dolores, been so gracious to offer their time to come in and talk about their advocacy work groups in Springfield, and we're just gonna get into it. No fluff, no. Joanna, thank you for joining us, and thank you for Draven for coming on. Let's get into it.
Thank you for having me on.
I was so excited to have you on because we talked a little before the recording and first met Draven on Instagram because I saw that you were working with Neighbor to Neighbor tenants' rights issues happening in Springfield. And I know Neighbor to Neighbor work in Holyoke and in Springfield. Spence mentioned you're a public advocate. So that's where I first saw you doing public advocacy. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that and your work with Neighbor to Neighbor and the tenants union.
So I initially got involved with Neighbor to Neighbor, I would say maybe around a year ago when I actually was having issues with my apartment. I had a neighbor of mine's who knew a Neighbor to Neighbor organizer. She told me that Katie, who was the organizer, was coming over to the apartment. And so I was like, hey, whoever that lady is, I want to meet her. I would love to get to know her and let's unite, because she was helping Brianna and I was just like running around like a chicken with my head off, not knowing what to do. Luckily, I met Katie. It was through meeting Katie that she told me more about Neighbor to Neighbor and the organization. Deeply inspired to become a part of Neighbor to Neighbor as I started to organize with them more in protests, especially at the Springfield Gardens office on Dickinson Street. When we went to go protest, and the people in the offices were literally like locking themselves inside the buildings. One of the things that got me wanting to involve myself more with Neighbor to Neighbor is when I saw that these property owners and landlord offices were hiding themselves from the tenants and not looking at we have over 500 signatures of petition signatures of literal like tenants who had actual problems and concerns. We had proof, we had evidence, everything was there, and they just did not want to see it, and it got us all heated, of course. And so, uh, through tenant gathering, through tenant organizing, and me having my own issues in my living situation, in my life, and growing up as a younger person, being 21 years old in this economy, in this society, seeing the things around me, I just feel like I feel like there's a big need for younger individuals to get involved with these social political issues. Neighbor to Neighbor is a Western Mass organization. I was born and raised in Western Mass. I just felt like it was a great thing to, I just felt like it was meant to be. I was already doing some work with Impact Center and the girls' organization, and I was already like volunteering for Justin Hirsch's campaign, and I just started doing more things that kind of led to another and another, and then here I am now, and it's been a beautiful endeavor. And I just look forward to see where it goes. It was with Neighbor to Neighbor that I was able to go to Washington D.C. with 8 other tenants from across the country to speak with the director of the FHFA, who is Sandra Thompson. That they actually, are the individuals who allocate those funds to those property owners, and so they're just really great at like getting things done and organizing.
Could you tell for the audience who the FHFA is? Is that what you said it was?
The FHFA is Federal Housing Finance Agency. The director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency is Sandra Thompson. I went to Washington, D.C. Then 7 other people from across the country went to Washington, D.C. Why did we go to Washington, D.C.? Because we all in our apartments, all of our apartments, the one that I live in right now, they were purchased with FHFA backed loans. Now, the issue that we're trying to bring up to Sandra Thompson and the FHFA is that a lot of these property owners and these private investment companies purchase these buildings with those federally backed funds, and then they rent hike these buildings. They don't fix them, and then they get the tenants money to pay the mortgage of the building, and then pocket the other money, or who knows what happens to the other money. There's never exterminations. There's never checked for mold and mildew. There's never checked. You know what I mean? Like right now, my apartment has a lot of damage. My apartment will pale into comparison to other people's apartments. And that's the sad thing, is that the fact that my apartment pales into comparison to other people's apartments is crazy. And so another issue that we wanted to express to Sandra Thompson and her staff is that this isn't a centralized issue. This is a nationwide issue. We have people from Chicago, California, people from rural areas, city, metropolitan areas. We had different demographics, Hispanics, Black, white. This is not a centralized issue. And this was something we were trying to tell them, and that this was nationwide. A lot of us are being displaced. We had a girl from Chicago, from California, who was displaced twice in a year. She's like 60 years old. You know what I mean? She was from Merced, California. Yep, that's where it was. I met this other couple, these other individuals from Kentucky, older folk from a mobile park home community, and this private investment company purchases the whole park, hikes the rent. All the poor people that were living there get kicked out, then you know what I mean, displacing all those people. So you have a lot of people who know the system, who know the law, who know how to play the game of capitalism, who are out there buying these buildings with these loans. Then they're taking advantage of middle class, working class, and lower class folk. But because we're in a capitalistic society, unfortunately, these things, they go unforeseen, apparently. And it stresses me out as a younger person.
Just because people conflate legality and morality all the time, right?
hmm
Same thing goes for the system. Well, that's the system's operating as intended. It's like, well, yeah, sure, but does it have to? We're all in the same boat here. In the first 10 minutes of talking with you, that it's so obvious that people who have full-time jobs or disabled or elderly or can't work, doesn't matter. People who have other things, other stressors in their life, can come together and figure out this is all the things that the law states, the programs, the grants, the actual money the landlord's paying for the mortgage, collecting evidence. You're doing all this stuff outside of being a regular job. And if y'all can figure it out, it's really disappointing. And I'm really sorry to hear that your fellow neighbors have such poor living conditions. It's really unfortunate. It sounds very similar to the situation JR, Ward 1 Holyoke, has come on and talk to our show about. And they got the same issue. They're trying to form a tenant union protections office through with neighbor Katie. And JR, another situation just like you, just a person that lives in the apartment complexes, and mold isn't getting taken care of. Mice and whatever, all the things that come with with running, people living in a small space, isn't being taken care of, and there's nobody to enforce it. So yeah, and this is again, like, the landlords are doing a capitalism. So it just happens with a commodity, something we need. Like, you need a house, you need food, you need water.
I've always said that Springfield has the potential to be a small, booming city, but it needs the right leadership. It needs the right enforcement of regulation and policy, and it needs diverse leaders. There's a gridlock control because of continuous power. You've had a mayor who's been in mayorship for 16 years, I think.
Really long time. Mayor Sarno's been a long time, yeah.
I was born in, like, this is coming from somebody born and raised in Springfield in the South End. I was born on 55 Central. My dad came here to the South End back in the 70s. Like, he's been here, he's seen it all, and he's told me the history. He's told me like, this is coming from my dad, who has stood in front of these, uh, on these streets, seeing how things happen and how people move. And the times were different back then, And when you look back in history and you look at how cities formed, how cities got to be the way how they accrued their wealth, how did they accrued their stability, and what that stability was built off of, you begin to see the cracks of Springfield. You know, you have a city that's trying to be better and trying to be greater, but the foundation of the city is unstable because you have the city hall who argues with the city council. None of them basically they the city council does a better job with hearing tenant concerns, but the city council has no power because they're arguing with the city hall. So where do we get a voice, and where does the middle ground and the equality like come? Like, and I don't know, like a year ago, I looked at Springfield, like the North End, it being completely renovated and all of this stuff. And I was thinking to myself, I remember when all of this was disgusting. I remember when everybody used to talk shit about my apologies.
You're fine. You can say all the swears you want, honey.
I remember a time where people used to talk down, and now this area looks really nice and blah 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 blah. You got a mobile, you got a KFC, you got a. I'm liking all of these businesses, but then I also start to think to myself, what's gonna happen when they hike these rents to these apartments? What's gonna happen when they fix these? All these people, all these original people. Like, when I say original, what I mean is people who are like people like me who were born there. They're going to displace us and send us to a place like freaking Greenfield in the rural area where we're not. I don't know how to survive out there.
I'll help you. I'm up here, but still I know what you mean. It's not fair. It's a very wrong though. To be displaced feels very wrong. You're correct. If it's your home, it's wrong.
My dad told me, like, back in the 90s when a lot of people got displaced from Springfield and they went to Holyoke because of rent hikes. You look at what they're doing now. I'm seeing slowly on the Belmont area things getting nicer, and I'm already getting nervous because I'm near a place where if they like I'm near a pharmacy, a library, a grocery market, a park, and so if they work on any of that, I already know that my rent is gonna go up the roof, and that scares me.
No, of course, and that's why that's why I asked about neighbor to neighbor, because it's almost like you said, like disheartening, because you hear these stories of people who are older, especially, but as a young person, like you said, you want to have hope. So I'm not assuming for you, but I'm asking. I hope that programs like neighbor to neighbor and like connecting with people so that you can feel like you have a voice and maybe start planning and like it sounds like you were working with someone running against Mayor Sarno. So I hope things like that are uplifting in some way. And would you tell us more about any candidates running against Mayor Sarno, if we should keep an eye out for them in the future or anything like
To
that?
my knowledge, I believe I know that there is Justin Hurst, Jesse Letterman, a guy named Dave CMP. I could be wrong. I don't know his name. I've never heard of him before. I don't know of any other candidates other than Sarno that to my knowledge that is running. I volunteered for Justin Hurst's campaign because I actually met him. So it's like crazy, right? So I'm working. It's a regular day. I'm working my job. I was working at a custom clothing shop, and it's crazy how I look back. I'm like, yo, it's like so perfect how this happens. I'm working a custom t-shirt shop. Justin Hurst walks in. I need to make I'm working on my shirts, I'm like, holy crap, this is the perfect opportunity for me to introduce myself. And I'm like, hello, nice to meet you. I'm Draven. Uh and he introduced himself and we started talking. He told me he was running for mayor. And so because I was already like like I had said prior, doing what I was doing with Impact Center and the other organizations, I said I feel like when you align yourself with politicians and you can garner knowledge and learn a lot, and also see these people and city officials and how they also treat constituents, and also kind of gauge that world. And we're in a democracy where you need people like that to advocate for what you want. So it's always good to surround yourself around those people. When I met Justin, it was real authentic. I felt like, through our times together, I really got to see who he was as a politician, at least. I like what he has going for in his campaign, what he's speaking about. It represents a lot of what I represent as far as, more public transparency, having more interaction with the younger folks like myself for 20, 25. I feel like a lot of, and me and my dad have spoken about this a lot too, is you have a lot of young people who don't vote that if they voted would change so much. But then you have a lot of old people who are ignorant and don't really they'll listen to whatever they think is the right thing. And you got the politicians who know that, who go and they go to those old people by hitting them up in their mailbox or their little you know and saying and getting their votes. And then and then you'll end up seeing no change occurring because the younger people aren't voting, and the only people voting are the people being manipulated. If younger people voted and more people voted, it would significantly change the results of polls, in which would change the result of laws, in which would change. But people are conditioned, unless you go out of your way to figure out how to get involved with your community. Unless, because for me, even though I'm 21 and I've done public advocacy, I'm still learning so much, and there's still so many times where I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to help somebody, and I'm like, did I fuck up because I couldn't help this person? And I gotta sit back and say I'm still learning. I'm not perfect.
Yeah, but let me just I'm 40 driven and I have moments like that all the time. So I think that you'll definitely gain more knowledge and be great, but I think as we grow and we learn more and are open like yourself, it's so good to be able to admit that we don't have all the answers because like you said, there are people out there that can help us if we're able to be open and connect with each other. And I just want to let the audience know, and I'll share. I had also seen a clip of you on WWLP where you talked about challenges that you faced as a young person when you were unhoused. You mentioned some really nice programs that were very helpful then. So I wondered if you'd maybe share those with our audience now too.
Thankfully, because in Springfield there is a lot of resources. At the time, how I found out about the Impact Center was through my phone. I just did what any person, I feel like any person my age would do at the time. I was like 16, looking up on Google, homeless shelter, what to do here, and I found out about the Impact Center. Went, they had a shower, they literally had supplies. I cleaned myself up, started going there more. And it was through that, I eventually found a job, and it was through that job that I saved money and such. And so I was always, for me personally, because my dad's older, he's always educated me on save your money, and I was quick to at least save my money. And the Impact Center significantly helped with that. It was like COVID too. This was during COVID where there was no job, so I was always couch surfing. And I look back and sometimes I'm like holy crap.
I bet.
'Cause it's not like I will never say homelessness is good, but thankfully I always found a place. As far as there was maybe one time I slept in in the buildings, how there's the door that you open, you walk up 4 stairs and there's the other door. It was like I stepped in one of those one time. But I would usually pay friends to sleep in their car, or I would pay my friend gas to bring me to a place that where I would go to make money, sell some shoes that I used to have, or trade something for something. At the time, I was in a relationship. I moved to New York. Then a lot of other things happened in New York. Came back. I was like, yeah, I need to get myself together. I started getting really paranoid at that time in my life, and I was just I don't want to fuck up. And so I stuck with my job. I stopped drinking. I stopped talking. I got away from women. I really focused on myself, and I connected with Mark Watkins, who was the director of the Shine program, who let me stay at the Shine program, who then helped me with finding a place through Gandara. And ever since then, it's been a blessing, truthfully, because I've been provided the stability that I needed. And then ever since then, I graduated. I got my license. I was able to like really get myself back together. And it was because somebody was able to give me that chance. When I got my place, I wanted to I wanted to meet people and let them know that there were these organizations out there, because there's a lot of people I know, especially from back in the projects, back in the ghettos, that I know, that they feel like they have no hope. And if they just speak to these people, they'll connect themselves with with the resources and opportunities they need. A lot of it has to do with like at home stuff, no, lack of structure, and which leads to ignorance, and which leads to not looking for resources. I always tell myself, like, if I can get some people around here to at least go, like, it would be great. It would be great. There's no like way to do things or to get better, because I know how that feeling is. And there were moments when I was homeless where I would tell myself things like, I'm young, I'm attractive, why is this happening to me? Like, I would tell myself, I'm such a, like, I grew up with just my dad, so I would start to think very negatively. Oh, it's because of what happened. I did not have a mom, I didn't have the right structure. Pursued through those tribulations, because I hope to never ever go back there.
And I hope you never go back there. And that's why I think it's really important and so awesome that you talk about the organizations that do exist to help people. And I think that we need more resources like that person.
I have a list. So there is the Hype Young Adult Employment Program embedded in the Impact Center. The project will train IC staff to use the Hype model components to help youth improve executive functioning skills, develop career plans, and access resources to maintain enrollment and employment. And then, if you want more information about that, you can contact Christina Dillon at cdillon@gandaracenter.org, or at her phone number 413-654-1566, extension 6303. There's also Westfield Family Resource Center. It's a community-based family resource program that provides evidence-based parent education programs, youth parent support groups, early childhood services, information and referral, educational support, cultural events, and other opportunities for families. If that's something that you would like as well, you can find the information about it through Amanda Lesnick at ALESNICK@gandaracenter.org.
And I could also share, like, if you wanted after we are done talking, but you're also welcome to share the name and email of any and addresses of anyone that you'd like. But we could make a list afterwards, and we could put it with this episode so that people have access to a number of the resources, even if they just want to, like you said, because sometimes we're going to go on our phone if we need something. And so if we make it nice and easy for people to get a hold of, I can add those into like I can like email you and we can add those into the episode.
If you could just shout out the names of those organizations, just like list them for us, so that way, what we'll do is we'll put on the final edit of the episode. We'll have the information on our episode notes, but we'll have you saying the names of these organizations.
So what I just listed now was programs within the Gandara organization. The Hype Young Adult Employment Program and the Westfield Family Resource Center.
Beautiful. And we're going to share all this information on our episode notes. So anybody listening, we'll have all the contact information and all these resources on our. So we do episode notes on our website and also on our Substack. So it's a nice, convenient way for people to get all this information, because it is a lot of information, but it's great information. And it gave our guest Draven a lifeline and help them figure everything out and get back on track. And you seem like you're in a good place, at least the way you're talking today in this interview. You seem like you're in a really good place compared to where you were, and it wouldn't be without the community help.
Absolutely. Especially me, I love my dad, but just growing up with my dad, not having my mom there, created a lot of like emotions within me. And, I for a long time was isolated in classrooms and away from like everybody. And I was the like kid in class that was like always with my headphones, listening to music and skateboarding. And people thought I was weird because I had like the rock star hair. And like I wanted to fit in, but at the same time, I didn't. And like my whole life, I just felt like the whole world was against me. And so now I just uh remind myself that what I've been through in my life, I can take them as lessons rather than to let those traumatic experiences get to me. So I try today in my everyday life now to be as positive as I can. I know that for a lot of people who sometimes you're not able to find, or not find, but I guess I don't know necessarily how to say it into words, but when you're faced with the same constant oppression or depression or you know feelings of trauma, fear, worthlessness, and you're in that all the time, it's very difficult to escape that. And so it took a lot of strength, and it took a lot of understanding that it's not my fault. And like, us as humans, we put a lot of blame on ourselves. And I just hope that when people go through things, they kind of sit back and they kind of realize like improvement. Like, it's not good to be pessimistic or self-deprecating. And that's one of the biggest things. That's one of the biggest ways I triumph, is trying to have that, is don't get sad, don't blame yourself, don't self-sabotage, don't have these manifestos. They keep you grounded.
And it's okay to admit that the environment is creating a lot of this. So, like you threaded the needle when talking about your father and the realities he was facing, but yet still bore great consequences on you. Now, our stories are very different, me and you, but like I could pretty much sum up my relationship with my parents. Then it's like I don't approve of a lot of your tactics, and I wouldn't do it that way. But I also understand you were steeped in this shitty environment where we're isolated and we're not community based. And it's all about these tight nuclear families, and the people that don't have the tight nuclear families, and they have a whole uphill battle in society to deal with. Single moms, single dads. How it takes a village to raise a child, right? And we don't have villages, we don't have communities. So, and look, you had a little community help from some organizations in the community, and you're you're in a better situation than you were. It's just like the answers are so obvious to us.
Exactly.
Yes.
Childhood trauma can affect somebody for their whole life. And the environments you're in, like I'll say this, like I've always from 0 to 17, I always lived in Springfield. I was somebody who never left Springfield. I maybe went to Chicopee or Holyoke, but like I never left anything else other than that. Like I was closed off from the world. Then I fell in love, literally, moved to New York, and I moved to this big city, well, not in the city, but upstate New York, completely different area, to Hyde Park. And I got a whole new different perspective. Keyword perspective. Remember that word. Perspective of the world. I saw how people out there lived. I saw how people out there commuted and how they communicated with each other. I saw the just like neighborhood, the neighbors, how you doing? And, like like in a movie. And so like I'm over here thinking to myself, as somebody from Springfield, we don't fucking do that shit out there. Motherfuckers will walk by you and have the dirtiest face, they'll look at you like, and you're just like, whoa, I'm just trying to get my coffee. And so like you begin to realize we were so conditioned to take this stuff. We were conditioned to live this way because when we're born into this world, we're listening, we're consuming what we hear, and then you begin to grow up. And if you well, depending on who, if your parents are conservative, chances are that child is going to grow up with conservative views. If you grow up in a household with liberal views, that child grows up with liberal views. It's or whatever the case may be. Children will grow. We consume that information, and then depending on the severity of our lives, as far as like the trauma and how bad or good or how worse that gets, all of that is determines the person and how they grow up. I'll say because I didn't have a lot of structure in my life, it led to me being very ignorant to a lot of things in my early teen years. And it took like my girlfriend telling me like, yo, that's not like how you do things. And it took like people literally stopping me in my tracks and saying, hey, what the hell? When you like, I used to tell people, what did you expect? I used to chill on Saratoga Street with my homeboys. Like, I used to chill on the steps with my friends, smoke a blunt, and like go to the park. Like that was normal for me. To some people, that was ghetto, and so I had to grow up, and I had to see things differently. But I didn't start seeing things differently until I left Springfield, and so when I came back from New York and I was 18, uh, I I just started to kind of I kept that in mind, all of what I learned like out there, and I started to see how, I guess, manipulated things were here, how things were planned, how things were you know strategically intended. And I started looking at our the like politicians on the internet and in Springfield and history, and I started asking myself, why hasn't much changed, and why is a lot of the change centralized in one area? And so, you know, that's like when you like it really does when you look at our country, like yes, our city, but like our country, especially with what's going on. We're in a we're in an era where Republicans and Democrats are at each other's throats, in an era where we're in the first time in US history we may default, in the first time in history where Korea and China, or I don't know who and who, like it was like the world is changing in ways, in so many ways right now, that us as city folk, me and you, we don't really like pay attention to that because we're city folk, and like we might occasionally look it up on the international news, but like when you really look at things and you use it, when you think about it, look at 1920, 1930, 1940, that was the war. 1950, 1960, when everything ended with segregation. Now you're in 2023, or no, no, let's rewind a little bit back to the 70s with the women's rights movement and all of these movements and stuff. Now we're in 2023. Now we're at inflation. How about the next 20 freaking years, yo? Like, we have to really start thinking. First of all, global warming. Second of all, uh, pollution. Third of all, overpopulation, just lack of resources. We don't have oil from Russia. We don't have, like, we are becoming a fractured nation, and it's all because of greed. It's all because of money. It's all because of self-interest, people having their own agendas. And if people just took a moment to breathe and just like look around them and see who's really like
participating in the politics and in the community, and engage with those people and try to see ways they can uh unite in their communities. And I think that way that would ignite change in local communities. I always say, going to the state assemblies, I always try to suggest that to people, like, hey, let's go to a state assembly. I think that would be a huge learning experience, especially because that's literally the state assembly. That's where they talk about so much and where constituents could literally bring up so many issues right there at the state assembly. But I don't, like, right now, I don't know how to really set that up. I don't know what steps to really take, or when those state assemblies are. So I have to look up when the state assemblies are and try to see if I can organize people to go to that state assembly with and speak with the people at that assembly in hopes they can help out with issues relating to needs in the city and stuff. Like, my whole goal is trying to organize and speak with, because the truth is there needs to be more participation and governance and the local level. Like,
Local, especially, I completely agree because we have a lot of community power when we work together and vote together.
I don't want to sound, because I know people are always like, don't be that guy or don't be that person. They can't expect change if they're not doing nothing about the change. And they're not people are really not voting. People are just talking on their Facebooks, on their Instagrams, but they're not voting. They're not going to the city meetings or anything. They're not emailing their city reps or whatever. And yet you want to blame no change, but no change is, you know what I mean? Like, I think about things like that because we have to think about things like that. That's our literal democracy. In order for laws to be passed, you need to pass a bill through legislation. There needs to be two revisions, and there needs to be steps, but we have to be the ones to start those steps. And a lot of people are sitting at home like, oh, politicians don't care about us. That's literally the oppression they condition you under. That's how they stay in power. And that's something I say, and then they want to call me crazy.
People shouldn't say that. I'm excited to see you organize people, and I bet you neighbor to neighbor would have some resources. You said you didn't know exactly who to start with organizing. I'm excited to see because I think if you mobilize like the locals and people, like, I think local votes are very important. But I ran for office in my town and I lost by one vote.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's totally important, like you just said, and I will actually personally help you find state reps, or who I will email with you if you ever wanted me to, just so that if you have young people in Springfield that you would like to organize with, or anyone who would like to go with you, maybe there are resources we can find. If you're open to that, I would be happy to help.
Absolutely. We can definitely discuss that after.
I want to just say thank you for having this passion and seeing the oppressor for what it is. And as the resident white man, I apologize on behalf of my and I totally get it when I get looks, and that's cool.
Oh my gosh.
As a Hispanic, as somebody who grew up hanging out with Puerto Ricans, like, and Dominicans, and like, unfortunately, and mind you, I was born in 2002. So, like, in 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, like, if we look back, let's look at back then and how things really were. People were throwing around the R word, the F word, this, humor. Everything was different. Literally, homosexuality was like illegal. Like, I remember, like, I was a little kid, and so, like, just back then, even racially, even though people were like around each other of different races, I remember me being young and the white kids staying away from me and me going to the Puerto Ricans. And I remember this kind of, like, we would never say it, but in the cafeteria in school, you would see it. The black kids would be with the black kids, the Puerto Rican kids would be with the Puerto Rican kids, the white kids would be with the white kids, and it would be like that. And back then, like, uh so there, it created like this rivalry, my apologies, rivalry among with each other. And at least in Springfield, like, and being in a metropolitan place of a lot of like it created getting looks for a lot of people because you had Puerto Ricans not understanding why the hell black people are talking shit about us when we're both oppressed and we're both marginalized communities. And then you had, then you had white people who would either be friends with us or be nervous to be friends with us, or would be in their own lane, or like, and or would get bullied by the black kids. And then you had Puerto Ricans who would have to step in, or the white kids would bully the black kids or whatever. So this was like real, like me being young in like second, third, fourth, fifth grade, and Rebecca Johnson. I love the school, it's a great school, but when the world was very ignorant. And my point is when there's a lot of ignorance, and I got to like fifth grade, and I started to see like a lot of people, like you have to, like, I don't know, like there's hate, there's racism, there's classism, there's too many people looking through the eye of person's skin color. And I'm sorry that you also got looks, because I know that people sometimes say, oh, white people, they never go through. But I know a bunch of white people who have also, like, they faced their, like I have a friend who he has ginger hair, and they always clown him. I don't know him anymore, but they used to always kind of like call him white boy, and I used to be like, yo, stop calling him that. He has a name, you know what I mean? So like I could definitely understand.
When I say that, I totally mean like I'm willing to pay that tax. That's all I'm saying. Like to me, it's part of like the pleasure of not being suspected of a lot of shit. You know what I mean? Like, and not having. Anyways, what you just described in the last 10 minutes, you described white settler colonialism. Like, it colonizes the mind. And capitalism, profit. That's how these politicians are. It's the same fucking game. We just rebrand it, rebrand it, rebrand it.
I'm Puerto Rican. I have brown eyes, darker hair. I'm lighter skinned. Uh, my nephew is darker skinned. When I was growing up, I would always have this thing in myself, like, it's weird how when I go to the store with my nephew, they look at my nephew, and this is how I used to think in my head. Me and him are the same blood, same freaking blood. And we walked in together. It's not like they thought we weren't together. We walked in the store together, and for some reason they're looking at him. I could be the one stealing over here, but they're looking at him. And it was like little things like that. I started to ask myself things like, why is it? I started to realize color, and how color in society like really determined how you were perceived. And as I got older, I began to see that more, and how even within, like, unfortunately, because there's so much hatred that has been built in racism and stuff, you have, like, unfortunately, marginalized communities battling amongst themselves. You have, like, darker skinned Puerto Ricans who don't really like lighter skinned Puerto Ricans because they think the lighter skinned Puerto Ricans think they're better than the darker skinned Puerto Ricans. And then you have the lighter skinned Puerto Ricans who entertain that stereotype. And then you have like the ones who are not actually like that. And it doesn't make sense because they're all Puerto Rican, and they're only conditioned to fight because of the color thing. But what people don't realize is, you look at Dominicans, you can look at a Dominican family, they'll look different colors. They're all the same mom and dad. You know what I mean? So it's 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 unfortunate how people really have been colonized in their mind to, I guess, kind of entertain the Eurocentric ideology that things are supposed to be a certain kind of way, and da 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 da, because it has created a lot of hate. And you look at a lot of marginalized communities, and they have a lot of hierarchical, toxic hierarchical things that have been, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still on that journey to learning what that all is. I'm young, and I'm on the cusp of learning that all. I'm literally reading a book on psychology, philosophy, and logic, and I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, whoa.
You're far further ahead than I was at your age. Like not. Yeah, I'm a late bloomer myself, and I'm still learning like every day,
I appreciate it.
and not just color stuff, just sexist shit and how like understand for example like the not all men hashtag. It's like fuck, shut up, man. Like the odds of a white man assaulting you as a woman, regardless of your race, and even worse if you're indigenous or black or dark skinned, the rate of like assault there that we know of, it's so high. So of course, like, yeah, if somebody assumed that about me and wanted to keep their distance, like at the bar or something, I can't take offense to that. The numbers just bear out. And it's also like, yeah, the white guy has been oppressing. Even the poor white guys get to go home and oppress their family because they're a king. They have a kingdom.
Yes, my girlfriend, she's white, right? She's from she's from the South, right? So like, I'm like, babe, I'm like, why is it that you got some white people who live in the city, and then you got white people that live in the towns, and then you got the white people that kind of live in the trailer parks, and the white people who live in the towns and cities don't really like the white people that live in the towns, and I was just asking her these questions because like I'm a curious cat, and I'm like, and you even see within white people, because that even they come for each other. They talk shit about the people who live in mobile homes. They talk shit about the people who live in, but they're all white. You guys are, you know what I mean? So it's like everybody does it. Every race does it. There is no race that does not have a, uh, you know, uh, and it's unfortunate if we can get over that. That'd be great.
Well, it's like when we have a group that might be different than us at all, like like you're saying, we other that group. So like because they're different anyway, like even if they just live on a different street than me, apparently for like if you're saying if it's just white people and like stuff like that, like it's part of the oppression that if we just fight amongst ourselves, we won't organize, we won't find community, we won't get together and decide, well, we need to work together so that the people and the systems oppressing us can end. So you're completely right. And I think the patriarchy, like Spence mentioned, like misogyny and like things like that, are still a big issue. And with Pride right now coming, like I've always been someone that loves Pride. It's just it's one of the most fun times of the year besides Halloween for personally for me. And I'm always excited for um my queer family and friends to get to be proud to experience Pride with them and to have Pride be part of their life. And as someone who thought when I was 18 that things would be so much better now, when I'm 40, it's really sad to see that like there are things happening where even a joyful celebration like Pride could be so upsetting for certain people in just like within our own country. And I think again, it's because we are being put into these positions where we're othering each other still and not realizing we're all just people who are trying to survive and we need to work together and love each other. I think hate is just I'm with you, Draven. I don't know how we get rid of that, but it is the worst part of our humanity.
For me personally, I tell myself, if if we, and when I say we, I mean all the organizers, I mean everybody, I mean you, I mean Spencer, I mean everyone. If we don't talk, if we don't say anything, if we don't get involved, if we don't speak up, nothing will change. So it's good that we're all doing what we're doing already. We just have to keep it up. And I believe with the right leadership in whatever community you're in, city, town, uh, wherever, with the right leadership, with the community being involved, and and when I say community being involved, I mean when the community needs are being met, and the way that they find out how what those needs are is through means like meetings and stuff, and finding out ways to uh let people know how to, because they don't let people really know how to. uh there should be like a system where they send out like it's 2023, like there should be like a thing that emails you, come to our next state assembly here and here. There should be like a every state should have a web forum or something, or some type of email thing that lets you know what the local uh conferences are and stuff, or you know, and so that people can go, and more local engagement will ultimately lead to changes happening. The 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 question is, how do we get those people to, how do we get that knowledge to those people, and how do we get those people to believe in our democracy again, restore pride in our democracy, because our democracy is fractured. And honestly, I've spoken to so many people of so many different races, of so many different classes, like like people who own homes, people who are renting, uh, and they all say the same thing: F the politicians, F voting, F doing this, F doing everything that will literally change the way that things are. But they're so conditioned to think like that because they, they're conditioned to think that way. One, because of the media. The media also has a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of misinformation on our phones. What we view on our phones subconsciously influences how we think. And if you're viewing ignorant content, you're going to reciprocate ignorant views. And I think that America is hypocritical at times because we say we're the melting pot, yet it's these moments that would literally emphasize that statement of the American dream, and you know we're the melting pot and we're the land of dreams of just having engagement and employment opportunities, and just a better city. Like, we have a better city, but it's not for the people. We have a better city economically for the business owners and the homeowners here. There needs to be more provision for the tenants and the constituents rather than the business owners and property owners here. There's too much capitalistic BS going on, and Mayor Sarno needs to be replaced. Needs to be a new guy, a younger guy, and as a younger person, I truthfully believe that.
Well, I appreciate your dedication and your apt analysis. Like I I couldn't say it better myself. And getting involved looks very different to everybody else. Like it's not one size fits all. Some people are, gumshoe journalists. Like we have a couple friends with the weed out that are, they do a lot of the work. And then there's people that are organizing, um, to go to the state capitol or even coming on our podcast and being like, "Hey, I have an idea. Maybe we should all be getting emails about like shit that's happening." And
Absolutely.
like we can do this. Like we can put a man on the fucking moon. Like why can't we like make this a more inclusive democracy? And why why don't we hear from the people that have to work and live in these neighborhoods and make these people money? Like, come on, let's get to the bargaining table. What the fuck are we doing?
Mm-hmm. I
So before we go, I could you give our audience, anybody that's listening in the Springfield area, if you could tell us, Draven, where people can reach out and organize with you, where you typically like I don't know, your social media, do you have a particular organization you'd like to shout out to organize with you? Anybody listening in the Springfield area, because we would love to do that, and anything you mention, we will put on our episode notes too.
For sure. You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. That's where I post a lot of my updates on what I'm doing, where I'll be, where I'm attending, what I'll be participating in, or just I'll share resources On my Facebook, what I like to do sometimes is I'll like post like mental health like notes, like little. This is how Draven feels, and I'll post that and hope people will read that and kind of be like, they'll, because at least for me, sometimes I'll read things and I'll be like, that's helpful. That people will share a story and I'll say I can relate to that. I appreciate that. Like that's it's like advice, you know what I mean? And
I like your stories. I like your stories on Facebook, so people should follow, I think.
thank you. And you can find that under my name, Draven Dolores, DravenDolores. You can find me on Google. Thankfully, it's just my name. Just Google my name. Uh, and if I were to shout out an organization, I would say Neighbor to Neighbor and Gandara. And Behavioral Health Network. I have to give them a shout out too, because they're also a great organization who provides therapists, psychiatrists, a bunch of mental health resources. They like I've had my therapist and psychiatrist at BHN since I was 3 years old. And I'm really lucky to have been able to say that. And so it's because they are really nice people and they offer like different resources on like a bigger level as far as like if like crisis or you know stuff like that. And I think they offer stuff for like even like teen moms and stuff, but I'm not a teen mom, so I don't know about those resources.
Can't thank you enough for sharing your story and sharing your experiences. The whole point of the weed out, it's not, we talk a lot about police abolition here and we fucking hate the cops. But we also really like to let everybody know that like we got to build up other things to deal with the things we say cops are supposed to deal with. Like, so we always want to bring people on and share their stories, and I hope people are inspired and or want to organize with Draven. Anybody in the Springfield area, this is like the call to action of the show. Like
Yes.
let's build community. Let's democracy, small d. Like everybody get involved. Like we'll get somewhere because most people, when you come to a table to break bread and negotiate in good faith, you'll see the humanity, and everybody will figure it out. We can, but we have to encourage people to like instead of just sucking into the colonization trap uh, of oh politicians suck, those people over there suck, everything else is my problem. Whether it's brown people or fucking trans people, it's like it doesn't make any fucking sense and it's just hateful and it's just to keep people fucking separated and arguing with one another. And so yeah, thank you so much for being so eloquent at saying it and like having this wonderful vibrancy. We love having people with good energy and you got good.
Yeah, you are so uplifting. Really, really appreciate you coming
Thank
on.
you. I appreciate it a lot. And you guys are awesome. It was a pleasure meeting you. And I hope that this isn't the last time we meet and speak. You guys are awesome.
Thank you so much. I don't think it will be the last time. Hopefully, next time we can meet in person.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
We thank you so much for your time, and we would love to have you on again, especially if you have anything specific that we can get like a call to action on.
I would love to be on the podcast again and speak as well. If you would love to reach out, if there's anything in the future that you feel like I can help out with, and any of you, reach out to me. I always love helping out where I can.
Ditto. Same back at you.
Nice, got it. It was nice meeting you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening.
You too. Take care.
That was great.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed her point of view and really kind of very grounded and also kind of galaxy brain view as I like to call it, and that's a compliment I get accused. My wonderful Bridget, my spouse, likes to say I get galaxy brained, and you see everything like in the fucking Men in Black, I guess. Like it's like this. It's something like as small as a kernel has like a million things going on, and it all kind of binds together. And this Draven really sees everything, but also could share anecdotes and personal experiences and make it personal. And that's important, sharing stories of the working class. And this is good news mostly. And they're active and they want to do things and be engaged.
I thought they were delightful after having shared, like they said, the trials and tribulations that they faced as a young person who is unhoused and who's trans. I think it's wonderful that like they said, they felt really lucky to have a therapist and a psychiatrist because it is so hard to sometimes find even those resources, which don't work for everyone. And if that doesn't work for someone, that's fine. But I'm so thankful that they came on and were willing to share the resources that have helped them. And I hope that this lets community members that are listening know who have never potentially faced being unhoused or faced mental health issues or things like that where you need those resources. Do you think of others when you see issues like that potentially be like cut from your city budget, or if there is potential money that can go towards things like that? Look at the way that it can impact your community in a positive way. And like Spencer and I always are hoping to reallocate funds in local budgets away from the police to things that would help other like people just thrive, and be themselves and live a life that is full and joyful. I think Draven is a wonderful person to speak on how resources in the community rather than policing just really are going to uplift and help someone move forward.
She really has a great energy. I can't say that. So anybody in the Springfield area that's looking to organize, and maybe some of the issues they mentioned, maybe you're having landlord issues and you need help, uh, please reach out to Neighbor to Neighbor. Katie Talbot is the lead organizer. We've had her on previous episodes. So that's one person, one place, not person, sorry. It is an organization with lots of wonderful people, and they've helped people like Draven. So, and now Draven wants to return the favor and help out her community. So, thank you, thank you, Draven, and we appreciate y'all. We just appreciate people coming on and sharing their stories. It's not easy, um, to be disarmed and tell about their. They seemed like they really find joy in connecting with people. So, always good because I'm a curmudgeon.
Well, and I hate most Facebook status updates, but I actually love theirs because, like Draven was saying, she posts things that are super uplifting, and like sometimes I'm not kidding, I'll be like, oh yeah, like it just makes you feel like there is someone out there. Like I don't know, most people's Facebooks, they're like the only Facebook status besides my like 90-year-old relatives who I really read. So I encourage others to follow them on all levels, because even if you were just reaching out to them because you maybe are a young person in the area, like I think that they're wonderfully welcoming and just want to be part of the community and know as many people as possible. And like you said, the galaxy brain thing, I have that a little bit too. But I think for them, like you said, it's not a negative thing at all. It's never been negative. It's just, it's kind of awesome to see a young person be so excited about getting to learn more and more.
Yeah, I it's just so I'm so happy when people just bring good energy because it makes doing this a lot easier. We've been so blessed to have so many great interviews. I mean, whether this is Draven or the Barnes and Noble Hadley people and everybody else, Laura, Andrew, they when they bring the energy, it makes our job a lot easier, and then we can just let them kind of go and share their story because they're such compelling folk that have been on, and so we can't do it without them. And shout out to everybody listening, like, rate, etc. We really need it. We appreciate it. We at the Weed Out do not have any sponsorships because capitalism's kind of tough. So it's not really our bag, baby. So we could use help in the donations department. We got website fees, podcast platform fees, equipment fees, all the stuff that it's not a little amount of money, but it also takes time to put together the podcast. So if you like our podcast, feel free to um, go to our Patreon and subscribe, and just kick us a little dough. Joanna, do you have any thoughts?
No, I thank you for letting people know. It would be super fantastic. We're so thankful to all the listeners for all of their support, listening, engaging. If you can give anything, that would be fantastic. $1, $10, no dollars even, and just please share and kind of boost us. But yeah, like Spence said, there are expenses. And it's okay because we love doing this, but we could also use some help. So we may have some more information coming out on that down the pike. But for now, that's all I have on that.
Yeah, and it's not even like I think we said this on previous episodes. If not us, another local journalist. If not us, so that helps too because a lot of this information we're getting is from great journalism that we trust, from people we know and trust, and they also have much more expenses than we do running entities like the Shoestring. We're kind of on a shoestring budget and we can make it work. So, and that's fine because that's what we like to do. And I don't know, we still have to keep the lights on, but we're always more than happy to platform people at the very least. And if you can't give us any money to help on the expenses, share the stories, get the stories out there. Because at the end of the day, this is about better communities, community care, abolishing oppressive systems, weeding out the nonsense, literally ripping it out. And I think I'm just gonna go right into the final segment before we go. And we'll do a quick lightning round. We won't. It's too depressing to like really beat it into the ground, um, because we are in Pride Month. So, of course, there's some fucking ghoulery and tomfoolery by none other our favorite, the the LASD. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, infamous for their gangs. You should just Google LASD gangs. Just Google it, anybody listening at home. It's widely documented. When we say the police are gang, like they are, and there's actual fire, not just smoke coming out of the LASD, and this has been going on for like decades, generations. These are generation deep gangs within the sheriffs who control the county, who aren't really beholden to local communities. They're kind of in a nebulous middle zone where they're under state jurisdiction, which, anyways, long story short, uh, they also run the jails. So you got that happening. They're the jailers. And yeah, so the LASD in West Hollywood specifically, really coming out strong, starting Pride weekend off great. In West Hollywood, of all places, basically, I don't know what I did with it. I'll have to edit it out. Here we go. Okay, so nope, that's not it. All right, Joanna. Okay, 4, 3, 2. I saw this thread on Twitter from Ryan Sheed at Ryan Sheed. This happens. What he says is this happened in Los Angeles during the Western Hollywood Pride event. The cops had a booth there, but were laughing at volunteers and patrons at other booths. When not asked not to heckle people, the sheriffs returned and started arresting people. When the woman in the video questioned why her friend was being arrested, they reportedly tackled her and arrested her for that as well. I thought LA and California were dealing with record homelessness and crime. I guess they have time to harass people at a pride parade. And there's been more video that's been released. Well, we can link a bunch of the stuff. Basically, the LASD are a bunch of thugs, and this is why there should be no cops at Pride. And it's really disappointing. Like like the story is not great. I don't know, Joan. Do you have anything on the rest of the story that you want to share?
I just think this is like you said, it's an example of why cops shouldn't be at Pride. I'm sure municipality rules make it so that the Pride organizers like have to let them be there, but Yeah, if they have to be there, they should shut the fuck up. Because Pride started as a riot.
A riot against police.
Yeah, and it's now a celebration. So if the cops have to be fucking present because of whatever municipal rules that may be in place, and I'm guessing that's the reason, or they were trying to get like some good PR. It's just no one is involved is happy about it except for them.
And I've seen reporting that this is tied to there was a pride event with counter protesters, like, homophobes, at some sort of school. I don't know if it was like a grade school or middle school in somewhere in LA, and the cops assaulted a bunch, not the cops, the right wing reactionaries protesting pride at a children's event, I guess. They assaulted a bunch of people right in front of the police, and the police didn't do anything.
That tracks.
It's just not great. And this isn't just LA, this is everywhere. There was a queer activist arrested in New York City by I believe, their SRG unit.
I'm sure throughout Pride though we'll see more than just even these few. You know what I mean?
Even if you mouth off to a cop, they find a reason. They get your ID and run your tags, and maybe you have an outstanding warrant because you were protesting Cop City, and then they illegally search you, and this is what happens, and then people get tied up in court. The cops get to do their get to do their press release that entities like WWLP release, saying they arrested these people on these crimes and they must have, this is serious. And then it never eventually either gets thrown out if the people have enough money to fight it, or it gets lessened because they always go overboard. And it's such horseshit, and they're sensitive little babies.
The straights are not okay is all that it is saying. Like I'm just like, wow, like queer people are the only ones that actually like are okay with, because why are we all still I'm just lost on the pride thing. I don't know how we're here at this age for me. The hatefulness of othering is just too much.
It's really fucking stupid.
It's like, stop thinking about what I'm doing. Like, I don't know. Like, if you don't like it, like, don't fucking go. You don't, no one's making you go to a fucking pride parade. And then you're going to call those people snowflakes, but you're going to go to something that you don't agree with and be potentially violent. Those are the things that make me sad and happy for someone like Draven, because they are looking at like the future and they're going to hopefully change it. But it's so sad that this type of hate can still exist for me. I don't understand hate.
By not addressing hate, it will continue to fester. So you have to address it. You have to call it
Oh,
out.
yes. Our straight friends and allies, if you appear straight, if you are in a situation where you see something, I'm sorry, you should need to step in.
Yeah. And at the very least, you need to always be talking about these absurd stories, and not in the sense of how to punish these fascists, but just like, this is unacceptable. Don't worry about the punishment. Just worry about everybody around you knowing that this shit is unacceptable. Like, and we need to make this, because some people are going to be hateful. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not to be a
Make
cynic.
them uncomfortable then, though. Like, if they are willing to be hateful to make us uncomfortable, they sure as hell will not be comfortable around me. And I am a nice little like white lady, so if I can do it, anyone can.
You gotta crawl back under your fucking rock.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. Put a rock on yourself. Exactly.
I'm not telling you can't think that. I'm not telling you can't fucking say it. But what I am telling you is, I'm gonna say you're a fucking asshole.
They can speak freely, and then I would encourage, if someone speaks freely and with hate, I would encourage anyone who feels safe, who appears straight and can speak up for themselves, who can speak, please do, because these people they should not be allowed to feel comfortable with the types of things and a type of hate that they're spewing.
Let's remind everybody at home just a quick Pride history. I'm sure everybody that listens knows. I presume, because this is basic Pride knowledge. The reason there was a Pride exists, it was against oppressive cops. Period. Not, cops were taking the side of bigots and helping them out. most of these cops were probably off fucking duty if they weren't dressed as cops. Like the same shit is happening today. It's the same thing, and we need to make it uncomfortable. We need to abolish these police. I'm sorry, like guys, we're not left wing lunatics when it comes to this. It's just a
And not just the cops. Like if you're like with someone and your spouse like talks like this, or you hear someone of your friends, like I don't even care if it's, yes, Pride started as a riot against the police. Now it's a celebration of people's joy that they get to be open and not out of, and like not living in fear and in the closet. And if people think that they're going to drive people to doing that again, they're completely wrong. They'll have to get through me, and I'm strong, so it's not happening. And I would encourage everyone else to stand up to this type of hate. And it's really just degrading to our own, like people like who would argue against homosexuality or being queer or anything that falls under the umbrella of pride are the type of people who would also potentially all think that like freedom and liberty is super important, and that is so crazy to me.
one way to sell this to people that I've found is effective, and what really was made it effective to me is things like homophobia, transphobia, not wanting to help people that are in crisis with housing or medical attention, not dealing with that, avoiding it. It doesn't make the problem go away, right? And it's a feature of sabotage to class solidarity. It's to sabotage class. It ultimately sabotages class solidarity. And like Draven kept going back to, there are bigger things, and we have to figure it out. So that means within the Puerto Rican community, within this community, within that community, colorism's got to go too. Like we got to figure this the fuck out. We're all getting fucked, and you brought up like it's the basic concept of fascism, othering people, make them the fucking scapegoat. It's narcissism. It's the same thing that happens to the black sheep in the family. Like all like these tales are as old as time. So
Beauty and the Beast.
right, sure. Is that a narcissistic allegory?
I don't know, but whenever any Tale as Old as Time is one of those songs, this is just with the audience, or you can cut it, that bores its way into my head when I hear it and stays there forever.
Fair.
And you just said the like Tale as Old as Time phrase and then Beauty and the Beast.
And
I was brought up on Disney. They're super gay, apparently.
according to the Onion, everybody, only Bob Iger is quoted as saying his beef with Pride Week or Pride Month is that they own the copyright to gay, so other people use them.
Oh
You can
man.
support Pride otherwise, but they're using our property. And it's just like
Good.
okay, wow.
Wow, wow, we wow indeed.
Yeah. But anyways, like again, so just to wrap this all up, like when people say that trans people, gay people are groomers, right? Whoa. If we're worried about groomers, like why aren't there cops outside the fucking Catholic Church?
Every church in America and all of the cults included.
You starting with youth pastors.
Youth pastors at any level, not just Catholic, like every religion. And there are so many documentaries right now, Shiny Happy People, the Hillsong documentary. I mean, it's like every year we find a new cult that's like sexually abusing someone.
Or SROs, school resource officers, as we've talked
Yeah,
about.
cops out of schools. Nope.
The rate of all, and it's always white bros giving me a fucking bad name, and I gotta, it's one of those things in the court of public opinion. Prove it otherwise, bro. We're not taking the chance with you, and I get it. I don't feel safe.
Um,
That's my confession to the audience, people. Like,
yeah,
there's some
no.
grounds, like a football stadium. I don't feel 100% confident that this can't go sideways. Like, there
It
is
could go sideways. It could.
conflicting opinions in the crowd, and some of those blue line fascists are scary as fuck, especially when they feel like they have numbers. So yeah, you won't catch me dead at a fucking 100,000 person stadium in the Midwest. You just fucking won't. I'll watch it on TV from a safe distance. Actually, no, I don't watch college football. Fuck that. That's a little too much information for the crowd. Yeah, derailed. Anyways, it was great to have Draven on. Unfortunately, that we had to end on Gooler and Tomfoolery. It is Pride Month, and we have to call out the cross section, the intersection of policing and liberation of our LGBTQ plus community. Period. Like these patriarchal colonizing type institutions such as policing, they're ripe with misogynists. They beat the shit out of their families. Like these people, like Google 40% of cops. So I guess the homework is Google LASD gangs and Google 40% of cops.
And I'm sorry, like no hate to people who have like religious beliefs or are spiritual, but like Spence said, the sexual abuse within all churches, at all levels is astounding. So stop being so willing to assume one group of people is terrible. And I don't know why everyone cares so much about what we're all doing behind closed doors at night. Please let people that are now able to just live their lives celebrate.
Absolutely. So happy Pride Month.
Yeah, it's a good time. And family. I have lots of family that would identify as queer or gay, and I love you, and I would put my body between yours and any asshole that would say anything wrong with you or anyone I didn't know. I would do the same thing. Protect those that you love during Pride because it should be a celebration.
We care so much we talk shit into a microphone too.
Yeah, I would say it to someone's face though.
Oh no, no, saying we're willing to broadcast it and put our name on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, our verbal punch reaches a lot further than maybe because I don't go far.
I'm not violent, but I'm just saying if you come from my queer or my gay or my however someone identifies and at this point, even if I don't know them, they're my family. Watch out. If I'm there, watch out. That's all. I'm gonna protect them.
And you come for any motherfucker in the working class, and the working class is big. It's most of us. Anybody that's like one paycheck away from getting fucked.
I mean, my bark is enough. I'm sorry.
But anyway, so that's what we give a shit about that. So thank you for Draven coming on, sharing their story.
Yes, thank you so much, Draven. I love everything that you shared and that you're wanting to learn. It's just so uplifting. Again, just like after the Barnes and Noble crew, just such wonderful interviews with people that have great things that I think we might all know about what they or have the same experiences, but just I guess, just great stories to hear. I keep you. I don't know. It keeps me moving forward. It feels joyful.
It is joyful, and I'm glad to have spent this afternoon with you, and look forward to doing it next time. Got some great stuff coming down the pipe, so please stay tuned in, everybody. Like, subscribe, follow, interact with us. Hit us up with some ideas, with some tips, some critiques, anything. You can find all that information on our website and on our episode notes. Thanks for tuning in, and look forward to hearing from y'all next time.
Take care.